Matthew Lee, Intercity Press, on behalf of the Free UN Coalition for Access. Thanks for doing this briefing. I wanted to ask, since you're here, how this applies to the UN system itself. And I'm asking you in one sense because, for example, the Food and Agricultural Organization has filed criminal charges against a publication in Rome called the Italian Insider, based on its reporting. The head of the World Intellectual Property Organization, Francis Gurry, has also sought criminal prosecution of the media. And I'm wondering, as the UN's sort of media and information agency, do you think the UN Secretariat should have content-neutral rules for who gets access to the building in some transparent way and not based on just arbitrary or favoritism? And I've asked Alison Smale of DPI to show me what those rules are, and they have not been shown. So, and since you're here, I also, and as to UNESCO itself, I know that Mr. LaRue was, in fact, he resigned, whatever happened. I've heard from within UNESCO that, in fact, those who came forward with the claims are facing kind of retaliation. So I wanted to know, as a major UNESCO person that's here, is the ethics advisor, Rebecca Trott, in charge of these investigations, or is the internal oversight service of UNESCO going forward in charge of these? And are you aware of these charges of retaliation of those who came forward, including 2 journalists from within UNESCO, facing retaliation in the agency? Thank you.
So on your first point, the criminal prosecution, I don't know the details of those cases. It's always a question of what is the public interest in a particular case, but we do know that there are freedom of expression is always balanced against other rights, for example, the right to reputation, and sometimes the right to reputation can be diminished in the public interest, and sometimes there's no public interest case to diminish the right to reputation. Intellectual property, sometimes there are cases where violation of intellectual property can be justified in the public interest and other times not. I don't know in these particular cases. But in all cases, it's important to apply these international standards to say, is it legal, is it necessary, is it proportionate, and is it for a legitimate purpose? I'm sure you all know about that, and I think one would want all UN agencies to operate by those standards. On the question of access to premises, I'm not really in a position to comment on that. I mean, every institution needs some management system and some criteria, and so that's really for that that institution to figure out how they're going to meet their public obligations in terms of a manageable way of dealing with access. In terms of the UNESCO situation with ADG LaRue, I'm not really party to these proceedings, so I'm not in a position to give you more detail. Certainly when you said 2 journalists at UNESCO, UNESCO doesn't employ journalists as such.
No, I'm saying staff members that came forward with complaints against Mr. LaRue and spoke to the media are now facing internal retaliation. Did you think that the media coverage of the LaRue matter was fair or should give rise to retaliation either against the sourcing or against the media?
I'm completely unaware of any retaliation. So that's where I sit. If people feel they are being retaliated, there are ways in which, of course, any whistleblower can approach the ethics office or the internal oversight office to get some protection on that. But certainly, I'm not aware of that. In terms of the situation of the particular case. I think, as you know, UNESCO has issued a statement saying it takes very seriously these issues of sexual harassment. There was a preliminary investigation as a result of which the ADG was suspended, and then a more substantive investigation began. Now, these investigations are confidential. I certainly don't know what's happening in these investigations. I don't know what process is, where the process is in terms of preliminary findings or contestation by one party or the other in these findings. So I think that if you want to monitor it, it's better to speak to the UNESCO press officer because it's just not in my field of knowledge or authority even to comment further on this.